If you're here to hear me shit on this game, you're in the wrong place. What we are going to do is break it down, give it some honest thought, and talk about what Mind's Eye is, where it came from, and what kind of experience it's trying to deliver. Because there's a bigger picture here that a lot of people are missing. And whether you walk away hyped, disappointed, or just curious, it deserves more than just a meme reaction. So, let's get into it. Mind's Eye is a cinematic action-adventure game developed by Build a Rocket Boy, the studio founded by Leslie Benzies. Yeah, that Leslie Benzies, former Rockstar North, president and one of the key figures behind the Grand Theft Auto series. That's a big name to have behind any project, and naturally, expectations were sky high when this thing was first teased. The game was originally introduced as part of Everywhere, the ambitious open-world platform that Build a Rocket Boy is working on, a platform meant to house user-generated content, games and interactive experiences. But what really caught everyone's eye was Mind's Eye, a standalone story-driven game that feels like a spiritual cousin to what Rockstar used to make in the PS3 and PS4 era. It's gritty, narrative-heavy, and very focused on cinematic flair. And that makes sense. When you look at the talent pool behind Build a Rocket Boy, you're seeing a bunch of industry veterans who aren't just here to copy GTA or chase trends. They're trying to build a narrative experience with a certain level of style and polish. Now, the big talking point here is that the demo finally dropped yesterday, and it's given us our first real taste of what the game actually plays like. For months, we've seen flashy trailers and some cryptic teasers, but the demo is where we finally get to judge it for ourselves. And let me tell you, it's not quite what people expected. Visually, Mind's Eye isn't pushing the PS5 to its absolute limits, but that doesn't mean it looks bad. In fact, there's a certain retro-futuristic tone in its design that almost feels intentional. The lighting, the camera work, the character models. It all screams mid-2010s AAA in a good way, like something you might have seen at E3 10 years ago and been hyped out of your mind for. And for me, that's kind of the charm. We'll get deeper into the gameplay and mechanics in part 2. But here, in the background section, it's worth noting just how much this project is balancing. It's part of a larger metaverse idea. It's a narrative experiment, and it's also carrying the weight of being the first major title from a new studio with legacy expectations. So, is it perfect? Hell no. Is it ambitious? Absolutely. And ambition, even when it's a little messy, is something I'll always have time for in gaming. That's the background. Now let's talk about how it actually plays. So, now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into the part everyone's talking about, the gameplay. This is where the conversation really splits. The moment you pick up the controller, you're going to notice something. This game doesn't feel like a 20 to 25 blockbuster. And depending on who you are, that's either a compliment or a deal breaker. The controls are a little stiff. The animations aren't buttery smooth. And the gunplay feels more like something out of a late PS3 or early PS4 game. But here's the thing, that doesn't automatically make it bad. There's a kind of old-school charm to how Mind's Eye plays. It's methodical. It's not trying to be a twitch shooter or another cinematic on-rails experience like Uncharted. It wants you to lean into its slower pace. The combat's not flashy, but it gets the job done. You've got standard third-person shooting mechanics, some light cover-based gameplay, and a few hand-to-hand combat sequences that feel like they were inspired by early Yakuza titles. What surprised me most, though, was the atmosphere. The way the demo is directed, with its moody lighting, deep shadows, tight over-the-shoulder camera angles, it reminded me more of a gritty crime drama than a traditional open-world action game. The environments are dense, not massive, but filled with detail. You can tell they're aiming for quality over quantity, and I respect that. Now let's talk about the story. Even though the demo is short, it gives you just enough to sink your teeth into. You get a taste of the main character's personality, some cryptic hints at a larger conspiracy, and a vibe that this world has some serious depth if you're willing to explore it. It's not spoon-feeding the narrative, and honestly, that's refreshing. Of course, the big criticism I've seen online, and yeah, I get it, is that the game looks like it belongs on a 2013 E3 stage. But you know what? That's not always a bad thing. Back then, we were getting bangers like Watch Dogs, Sleeping Dogs, Max Payne 3, and early GTA 5. If you told me Mind's Eye was a long-lost title from that era that finally made it to release, I'd believe you, and I'd still be interested. Not every game needs to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you just want something that knows what it is and delivers on that vision. And that's where Mind's Eye shines. It's not chasing trends, it's doing its own thing. Now, would I tell you to go out and drop full price on this today? That's where things get tricky. Me personally? I'm going to wait. This feels like one of those games I'll pick up when it hits $20 or lands on PlayStation Plus. And that's not a knock. Some of my favorite titles were games I discovered later, and they ended up being absolute hidden gems. Mind's Eye could be one of those. A game that doesn't blow you away at launch, but sticks in your mind for its atmosphere, its ambition, and its refusal to play by modern doily-way rules. And honestly, that's something we need more of. So where does that leave us with Mind's Eye? For me, it's a fascinating project. It's not here to compete with the biggest blockbusters or chase live service trends. It's telling a story, building a world, and leaning into a style of game we don't get enough of anymore. Yeah, it's rough around the edges. The demo didn't blow me away technically, but it did make me curious. And sometimes that's more valuable. This isn't going to be a game for everyone. If you want polished combat, deep RPG systems, or a giant open world to get lost in, you're probably not going to find it here. But if you appreciate a grounded, cinematic approach with strong world building and a clear identity, it might be worth keeping on your radar. Right now, I'm not rushing to buy it. But give it time, a price drop, a patch or two, maybe a PS Plus release, and I think Mind's Eye could be one of those games we look back on as a cult classic from the PS5 era.